The wind howled like a starving wolf, a relentless, biting force that tore at everything in its path. Everest's eastern slopes, Sagarmatha, a desperate battle, October 6, 2025. A blizzard of unimaginable ferocity rescuers. Faces masked against stinging ice, leaning into the gale, a thin line of defiance against the mountain. Each step a monumental effort, boots sinking deep into fresh, heavy snow, trekking paths buried. Searching for the lost, the stranded, the souls caught in this frozen hell mission, urgent. A frantic race against the clock, hypothermia. Swift, silent killer at these altitudes. Among those caught in the blizzard's sudden embrace was Dong Shuchang, an adventure photographer. The storm rolled in with a speed that defied forecasts, transforming a scenic trek into a desperate struggle. The world shrunk to a few feet of swirling white, erasing the path and all sense of direction. The cold was a predator, gnawing at his bones as hypothermia set in. The snow was a relentless, blinding curtain. Dong fell into a drift up to his chest, the panic real as he felt the mountain swallowing him whole. He and his group knew if they stopped moving, they would die. Seasoned trekker Chen Geshuang was with the group when the blizzard hit, turning their line into a scattered, panicked crowd. The wind was a physical blow, the path disappeared, and she saw hikers fall into deep snowdrifts. Exhaustion set in. You start to feel sleepy, she recalled, and you know if you sit down you will never open them again. She forced herself to move, to fight. Then, a rescuer appeared through the snow, a sight she was afraid to trust, followed by overwhelming relief. The conditions on the trail were lethal. A blizzard dumped feet of heavy, wet snow, completely obscuring the paths. Hikers navigated blind, every step a dangerous guess. The deep snow concealed hidden crevasses and slippery rocks, while trekkers sank up to their waists. Exhaustion became the primary enemy. The fresh snow hit a treacherous layer of ice, turning gentle slopes into skating rinks. The combination of extreme cold, deep snow, and physical exhaustion created a perfect recipe for disaster. The timing of the blizzard could not have been worse. It struck during the first week of October. Golden Week, a national holiday in China. Combined with the post-monsoon trekking season, the trails were swamped. October is prized for clear skies, stable weather, breathtaking views. This year, thousands of adventurers flocked to the trails. The sheer number of people significantly complicated the situation. Trails that feel crowded in normal times were packed. When the blizzard hit, it didn't just trap a few isolated groups. It ensnared a vast population of hikers across a wide area. This created a mass casualty scenario on a scale rarely seen. Local lodges and tea houses were quickly overwhelmed. Countless trekkers were caught out in the open, far from any shelter. The infrastructure of the region was simply not designed for a crisis of this magnitude. This blizzard was an extraordinary weather event, a statistical anomaly. Veteran Sherpas and local villagers said they'd never seen anything like it. It was a brutal reminder that even in the age of modern meteorology, the peaks act on their own terms. The popularity of the Everest base camp trek during Golden Week created a tragic confluence of factors. A peak number of visitors, many moderately experienced but unprepared for extreme survival conditions. They were caught by a weather event so severe that even the most seasoned mountaineers were taken by surprise. The result was chaos, a widespread disaster that stretched rescue resources to their absolute limit. It turned a season of adventure into fear, tragedy, and ultimately, a desperate fight for survival against the fury of an unforgiving mountain. The Everest blizzard was not an isolated event. It was the ferocious heart of a much larger weather system wreaking havoc across the Himalayan region. The same disturbance that buried the Khumbu in snow was unleashing torrential rains on lower Nepal. Rivers swelled to dangerous levels, burst their banks, caused devastating floods and triggered landslides across dozens of districts. Entire villages were washed away, bridges destroyed, vital roads cut off, isolating communities. This extreme weather was supercharged by Typhoon Matmo, which made landfall in the Bay of Bengal days earlier. The typhoon dissipated over land, but pumped massive moisture into the atmosphere. That moisture was drawn north toward the Himalayas, collided with a cold air mass, fueling record snowfall high up and catastrophic rainfall below. It was a textbook example of interconnected weather systems, a storm over the ocean triggering disaster hundreds of miles inland. The consequences were far-reaching. Floods and landslides claimed hundreds of lives and displaced tens of thousands, creating a massive humanitarian crisis. Destroyed infrastructure slowed aid to many areas, leaving people without food, without clean water, and without shelter. The national emergency response was stretched thin, splitting attention between Everest and devastation across the rest of the country. This broader context is crucial to grasp the full scope. Stranded trekkers faced life-threatening danger but were part of a much larger story of environmental fury. The storm impacted farmers, villagers, and city dwellers across Nepal and neighboring regions. It illustrated climate volatility, extreme weather becoming more frequent and intense. The chaos on the mountain was a symptom of a changing planet, with the Himalayas as an unforgiving stage. The rescue operation was a monumental undertaking, a testament to human resilience, in the face of overwhelming odds. As news spread, a massive effort was mobilized. The Nepalese government, local authorities, private trekking companies coordinated a complex, dangerous mission. The first challenge: assess the scale of the crisis, with communications down. Hundreds of groups scattered across the mountains. No one knew how many people were trapped or where. The blizzard created a black hole of information. Helicopters were the primary rescue tool, but they were useless for the first 36 hours. High winds, thick clouds, heavy snowfall made flying impossible. Pilots were on standby, waiting for the smallest window of opportunity. They could hear the distant chop of rotor blades, a sound of hope that appeared and then faded. During this critical period, the first line of defense were those already on the mountain: Sherpas, guides, porters. Their terrain knowledge made them first responders. They risked their lives, leaving lodges and villages to search. Small, impromptu search parties navigated the whiteout. Acts of incredible bravery, without hesitation. They knew the clock was ticking. Every hour cost lives. When the weather finally broke, even for a few hours, the air filled with helicopters. It was a full-scale aerial evacuation. Pilots landed on tiny improvised helipads, hovered in dangerous winds, winched survivors to safety. Makeshift landing zones showed relief and deep sorrow. Exhausted, frost-bitten hikers were airlifted out. The thin line of hope had held. But the race against time had been terrifyingly close. While the helicopters and organized rescue teams rightfully earned praise, the true heroes of this tragedy were the local villagers, mountain workers. Long before any formal rescue effort could get underway, it was the people of the Khumbu who sprang into action. Lodge owners in Dingboche opened their doors, lodge owners in Labuche opened their doors, packing dozens of freezing, terrified trekkers into every available space. They worked tirelessly, melting snow for water, cooking vast pots of dalbat, tending to the sick and frostbitten, often using their own limited supplies. Their compassion and generosity were a beacon of light in the storm. The Sherpas, the porters. These men are the lifeblood of the Himalayan trekking industry, yet they are often in the background. During this crisis, they came to the forefront. Many had just finished guiding their own clients to safety and immediately turned back out into the blizzard. They formed search parties using expert knowledge to locate groups that had wandered off the path. They carried weakened hikers on their backs, sometimes for miles through waist-deep snow, to get them to shelter. They were operating with limited equipment, often just standard trekking gear, against a storm of historic proportions. They faced the risks of hypothermia, exhaustion, getting lost, yet they pushed on. They navigated by instinct, reading the subtle contours of the land that were invisible to the foreign trekkers. Their physical endurance, honed by a lifetime spent at high altitude, was staggering. They were the difference between life and death for hundreds of people, performing heroic acts with quiet humility. Their efforts highlight a truth: success and survival rely on the skill, strength, bravery of local people. Stories emerged of Sherpas who gave away gloves or jackets, shared their last bits of food, and literally pulled people from the snow. These were not just rescue workers, they were saviors. Their actions reminded us of courage and sacrifice, and that in the harshest environments, the greatest strength is often found in the kindness of a stranger. The Everest blizzard of 2025 was a tragedy, a brutal reminder of the mountain's unforgiving power. It stripped away romanticism, exposing the raw force that lies just beneath the beautiful surface. Yet, from the chaos, incredible stories of courage emerged. Survivors fought to keep living, while selfless rescuers, Sherpas, guides, and villagers risked their own lives to save strangers. They proved that in the face of adversity, compassion can be a force as powerful as the wind and snow. The lesson is clear. Respect the power of the mountain, but never underestimate the power of the human heart.